Picture a quiet office late at night. A screen glows, a chat window waits, and in that blank box, a new kind of power is hiding in plain sight. You type a question, and a machine answers in your language, in your tone, with the confidence of a human expert. Not because it understands you like a person, but because it learned the shape of human thought through patterns, prediction, and scale. Now, imagine what happens next. Companies rush to integrate it, students lean on it, workers fear it, governments debate it, investors chase it, and the world begins to realize this isn't just a product, it's a platform for the next era. At the center of that era stands a name that keeps appearing in headlines, meetings, and whispered conversations. Sam Altman. Keach Hagey's book, The Optimist, tells the story of Altman, of OpenAI, and of the race to invent the future. But it's not a simple hero story, and it's not a simple villain story. It's a story about ambition, about governance, or about speed, and about a mission that collides with reality. Because the real question isn't, can we build it? The real question is, who gets to steer it? And what happens when the steering wheel is shared by people who disagree on what safe means? Take a breath. Let's get into it. What you'll get from this summary. We'll cover 3 layers of this book. First, the kind of leader Sam Altman appears to be, as the book portrays him. Second, how OpenAI changed shape as it scaled from mission to mainstream. And third, why the AI race feels different from every tech race before it. Along the way, we'll pull practical lessons about leadership, incentives, trust, and decision-making. And I'll keep this summary thematic and fair. I'll describe ideas as the book argues or the book portrays, so we separate story, interpretation, and reality. All right, let's start with the title. Why? The Optimist is a loaded word. Optimist sounds harmless, a personality trait, a positive mindset, a sunny outlook. But in the world of high-stakes technology, optimism is not just a mood. It's a force. It's the belief that progress is worth pushing, even when the risks are real, even when the map is incomplete, even when the consequences are unknown. In The Optimist, that word becomes a lens, because the story is not only about what AI can do, it's about what people choose to do with it and what they refuse to slow down for. The book frames Altman as someone who builds momentum, someone who can sit inside uncertainty and still move. Someone who doesn't only ask, what will happen, but also, what can we make happen? And in Silicon Valley, that mindset is powerful. Because in Silicon Valley, belief is currency. Belief attracts talent. Belief attracts capital. Belief attracts partnerships. And belief can turn an impossible idea into an inevitable one. Belief. A founder in a small room, pitching a future that doesn't exist yet, while a few people decide whether to fund it. Now, here's the catch. Optimism can build, but optimism can also justify speed. And when speed becomes an identity, it can outrun caution. So right away, the book sets up a tension. OpenAI begins with a mission, but grows into a competitor. And competitors don't get rewarded for being careful. They get rewarded for winning. The Silicon Valley skill that matters most. The book's story sits inside a broader pattern, how modern tech leaders rise. It's not only engineering skill. It's not only money. It's the ability to connect people and resources fast. In the book's portrayal, Altman's advantage is often social architecture. He can create alignment. He can pull different groups into one direction: founders, investors, researchers, partners, policymakers. And that's a rare skill. Because building frontier technology is not like building a normal startup. You're not just shipping a better app, but you're building infrastructure for a new era. And to do that, you need talent, compute, capital, trust. And those 4 things depend on relationships. So the story is not just about code, it's about networks. Networks. A calendar packed with meetings, different rooms, different power centers, different incentives, one person moving between them, translating the same future in different languages. This is one of the book's quiet lessons. In big moments, the best leaders become translators. They translate complicated technology into a simple narrative. They translate risk into a plan. They translate uncertainty into momentum. And when they do it well, other people begin to move with them. That's how institutions shift. OpenAI's original promise and the problem with big promises. OpenAI's founding mission is bold: build advanced AI and ensure it benefits humanity. It sounds almost like a public trust. But benefit humanity is enormous. It's hard to measure, hard to enforce, hard to agree on. In practice, it can mean many things: broad access, safety research, responsible deployment, avoiding concentration of power. But the book points to a deeper truth. If you believe AI will shape society, then who builds it first matters. And that creates a paradox. To protect the future, you might feel pressure to win the race. And once you're racing, the world starts judging you like a competitor, not a mission. This is where the book becomes especially interesting, because it shows how an organization's shape changes under pressure. It begins as an idea-driven mission, but as the stakes rise, it becomes a system, a product pipeline, a partnership network, a governance structure, a public brand, and a lightning rod for debate. The mission stays, but the environment changes, and the environment pulls on the mission every day. The pull. A lab becomes an office. A research paper becomes a product demo. A demo becomes a global tool. And suddenly, the world is inside your experiment. The fuel problem. Compute, money, and reality. Frontier. AI needs enormous resources. Compute is expensive. Infrastructure is massive. Scaling is costly. So a mission-driven lab faces a choice: stay small and pure, or scale and compete. And the book explores how scaling requires fuel. Fuel can come from funding, and funding comes with expectations. Fuel can come from partnerships, and partnerships come with incentives. Either way, reality arrives. This is not necessarily corruption, it's physics. If your competitors are scaling, and you don't, you fall behind. And in AI, behind can mean less capability, less talent, less relevance, less influence over standards, and less power to shape outcomes. So if you believe the future is at stake, you may feel you can't afford to lose. That belief can push you toward alliances that accelerate growth. But the faster you grow, the more complicated your governance becomes. And governance is where missions either survive or break. The partnership question: who powers who? The AI race is not just brains versus brains. It's infrastructure versus infrastructure, data centers, chips, cloud platforms, global distribution. So the moment an AI lab partners deeply with a major platform, everything changes. You gain acceleration, more compute, more reach, and more ability to ship. But you also gain dependency. Dependency creates leverage, and leverage shapes decisions. The book invites a big question here. When a mission needs a machine, does the machine eventually set the pace? Not always, but often, because incentives don't disappear, they multiply. Revenue targets, competitive pressure, public expectations, regulatory attention, brand risk, safety concerns, internal disagreements, and each one pulls in a different direction. Leverage, a handshake in a polished room, a contract on a table, a promise of power, and a quiet question beneath it. Who needs who more? The product moment, when the world feels the future. Every era has a threshold moment, the moment a technology stops being impressive and starts being unavoidable. For many people, conversational AI was that moment, because it didn't look like complicated tech. It looked like conversation. It felt easy. And ease creates adoption. Adoption creates attention. Attention creates pressure. When millions of people use a tool, schools react, workplaces adapt, media amplifies, governments respond, and competitors sprint. In that phase, the questions change. Not, is this possible? But, who controls it? Who sets the rules? Who profits? Who gets harmed? What happens when it's wrong? And once those questions become mainstream, your company becomes more than a company. It becomes a public institution in everything but name, and public institutions get judged differently. The switch. A product launches, users flood in, headlines appear, competitors respond. A private lab becomes a global stage. The core contradiction, safety versus speed. This is the heart of the story. OpenAI's mission implies caution. Competition demands speed. Safety suggests restraint. Markets reward growth. Openness suggests access. Security suggests limits. And the book shows how these contradictions don't stay philosophical. They become operational. They become meetings, deadlines, policy drafts, launch decisions, internal debates, board conversations. Because once AI becomes powerful enough, every decision feels irreversible. And that pressure creates conflict, not necessarily because people are evil, but because incentives differ. Some people prioritize deployment and learning fast. Some prioritize safety and restraint. Some prioritize public trust and legitimacy. Some prioritize winning the race to prevent worse actors from leading. The book invites a hard question. Can you move fast responsibly? Or does racing inevitably sacrifice responsibility? There's no easy answer. But the tension is real. And the higher the stakes, the more fragile trust becomes. Governance, the most underappreciated battlefield. Most viewers think tech stories are about products, but at the highest level, tech stories are about governance. Who can make decisions? Who can veto? Who has oversight? What happens in crisis? What happens when people disagree? The book treats governance as a major part of the drama. Because when stakes rise, governance stops being paperwork. It becomes the steering system. And steering systems matter most when the road gets dangerous. The boardroom. A quiet room, a few people, a decision that changes everything. The kind of decision you can't undo with an update, even if you don't care about corporate structures. This matters to you. Because governance shapes outcomes. It shapes what gets built, what gets delayed, what gets released, what gets regulated, what gets normalized. And in AI, normalization is everything. Because once a tool becomes normal, it becomes invisible. And what's invisible is hard to challenge. Why this race feels different from the internet or social media. People compare AI to past waves, the internet, smartphones, and social media. But AI feels different for one reason. It touches cognition, language, reasoning, decision-making, education, persuasion, creativity. These are not only features, they shape how people think. And that means the AI race becomes cultural. Who defines what's helpful, what's allowed, what's true? What's persuasive? What's safe? And those are not technical questions. They are human questions. So the race is not only between companies, it's between visions of society. A future where AI is centralized and controlled. A future where AI is open and distributed. A future where AI is regulated like infrastructure. A future where AI is a private advantage. And every vision has trade-offs. Control can reduce chaos, but concentrate power. Openness can expand access, but expand misuse. Regulation can improve safety, but slow innovation and lock in incumbents. Private competition can accelerate breakthroughs, but amplify incentives that ignore long-term costs. So as you follow this story, don't only watch the models. Watch the incentives, watch the rules. Watch who gets to decide what progress means. 9 practical takeaways from this story. Let's convert this into lessons you can use. Takeaway 1. Narratives build reality. A clear story attracts resources. Resources build capability. Takeaway 2. The fastest path is not always the safest path. Speed wins markets, But speed can break trust. In high-stakes systems, trust is survival. Takeaway 3. Partnerships multiply power and pressure. Partnerships help you scale, but they also reshape your incentives. Choose alignment, not just access. Takeaway 4. Governance is strategy. The rules of decision-making determine your trajectory, not just your product roadmap. Takeaway 5. Culture follows tools. What people use every day becomes normal. What becomes normal shapes behavior. And behavior shapes society. Takeaway 6. The biggest risks are often second order, not what the tool does today, but what the tool enables at scale. Takeaway 7. Transparency is a trade. More openness can build trust, but it can also increase misuse. Leaders must navigate that trade honestly. Takeaway 8. Legitimacy is a competitive advantage. When the world trusts you, you can move with less resistance. When it doesn't, every move triggers backlash. Takeaway 9. Optimism needs discipline. Optimism without discipline becomes hype. Discipline without optimism becomes paralysis. The strongest builders hold both. These lessons are not only for founders, they're for anyone living through this shift. Students, workers, managers, creators. Because AI is becoming an invisible partner in daily life, and invisibility is the final stage of adoption. Who gets to own tomorrow? Let's end with the question the book keeps echoing. If we're inventing the future, who gets to own it? A handful of companies? A few governments? A global open ecosystem? A regulated public utility? The Optimist invites you to see the AI era as a human story. Ambition meeting responsibility. Ideals meeting incentives. Speed meeting governance. And whether you feel excited or uneasy or both, one thing is clear. The future is not simply arriving. It is being negotiated, one decision at a time. So I'll ask you, are you optimistic about AI, or are you worried? And what do you believe matters more right now, speed or safety? If you want more book breakdowns that turn big ideas into clear lessons, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which book you want next. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and build a future you'd actually want to live in.